Good afternoon. This is the February 10th, 2026 regular meeting of the Santa Barbara City Council. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Friedman.
Here.
Councilmember Santa Maria. Not here yet. Councilmember Gutierrez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Sneddon.
Here.
Councilmember Harmon.
Here.
Councilmember Jordan. Absent. Mayor Rouse.
Here. All right, very good. And have a ceremonial item to read.
Item 1, Black History Month 2026.
Okay, come on up. Black History Month, February 2026. Whereas February is nationally recognized as Black History Month, a time to honor the history, legacy, and contributions of African Americans and people of African descent to the strengthening character of our nation and local communities. And whereas the 2026 national theme for Black History Month, A Century of Black History Commemorations, marks the 100-year legacy of Dr. Carter G. Woodson's establishment of Negro History Week through the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, a milestone in promoting the study and public recognition of African American history. And whereas Dr. Woodson's work laid the foundation for broadening public understanding that Black history is American history, and that the stories, struggles, and achievements of African Americans must be preserved, shared, and celebrated. And whereas local organizations play a vital role in sustaining Black history, culture, and civic engagement, including the Santa Barbara Black History Culture House, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Committee of Santa Barbara Lompoc, Juneteenth Santa Barbara, Healing Justice Santa Barbara, Gateway Educational Services, Santa Barbara branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Santa Barbara City College at Umoja Village, UCSB Office of Black Student Development, and UCSB Multicultural Center. Whereas Black History Month is not only an opportunity to recognize the unique struggles of Black Americans, it also celebrates the accomplishments, integrity, talents, leadership, determination, and progress of the Black community while honoring its resilience and commitment to creating new opportunities for future generations. Now, therefore, I, Randy Rouse, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the Mayor of the City of Santa Barbara, do hereby proclaim February 2026 as Black History Month in Santa Barbara and encouraging community members to engage in activities and discussions to further their understanding of and appreciation of for Black history. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you for having us. My name is Letitia Fournier-Resch, pronouns she, her, with Healing Justice Santa Barbara. I'm the co-executive director. I have with me two of our staff members who help the Black Student Alliance, which is a group of students that are part of a club, which is BSUs. We bring them all together because they normally don't know each other, because that's how separated they are, and few they are. This proclamation was really poignant. I'm sure most of you probably don't know many great things that local Black people have done in Santa Barbara throughout the centuries, starting with the food bank, or your trash system was Black owned. Many, many other things. Want to invite you all to our trolley tours. We actually give tours to people so that we can learn about Black history throughout the whole year. I'm going to pass it on to my colleague.
Hello, my name is Faith Kingsbury. I am a fourth year at UCSB. I would like to first start by saying we do host a Black is Beautiful Gala annually. And every year we have 10 students who were awarded scholarships, and this year they were awarded $750. And we would like to continue to have that funding to be able to support them furthermore, as well as our spring conference, which is also another opportunity for them to all be in the same space. This year we will be having it from all the students within the region, so that means Ventura, Oxnard, Santa Ynez, Lompoc, Santa Maria, and all of those nice, beautiful areas. So it will be a good opportunity for them to all feel supported. Again, we urge you to please fund us. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jasmine. I am a fourth year currently at UCSB. I have been working with Healing Justice now for about 3 years, and I can say that we're really getting into the schools. We're making a difference. We're making a change. The students are excited to see our mentors on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. We bring them snacks. We build community. We give them networking opportunities. And yes, thank you so much for your support. I would like to ask that you continue to fund us, to fund other Black organizations within the community to help our youth, because they truly are the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations. Madam Administrator, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay, very good. And with that, we'll go to the consent calendar. You have some items to read, Madam Clerk?
Item 2, minutes. Item 3, authorize execution of the Second Amendment to the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Installment Sale Agreement for the Braemar Wastewater Lift Station Rehabilitation Project. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving the Second Amendment to the installment sale agreement with the State Water Resources Control Board for the Braemar Lift Station Rehabilitation Project, project number 8602-110. Item 4, adoption of an ordinance approving agreement 202507 with Kenneth Hall, sole proprietor, DBA Goleta Building Materials, Inc., at the airport. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving and authorizing the airport director to execute agreement number 202507 with Kenneth Hall, sole proprietor, DBA Goleta Building Materials, Inc., a California corporation for the premises located at 91 Frederick Lopez Road, 90 Frederick Lopez Road, and 90-A Frederick Lopez Road, Santa Barbara, California, commencing upon the effective date of the enabling ordinance. Item 5, adoption of an ordinance approving agreement 202501 with M/E Inc. at the airport. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving and authorizing the airport director to execute agreement number 202501 with M/E Inc., a California corporation located in the Santa Barbara Airport Airline Terminal at 500 James Fowler Road, commencing upon the effective date of the enabling ordinance. Item 6, establish a City of Santa Barbara Water Resources Department. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending Title II of the Santa Barbara Municipal Code by adding Chapter 2.35 and amending Section 2.39.040 relating to the establishment of a Water Resources Department. Item 7, acceptance of Parma Park Trust funds. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending resolution number 25-066, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2026 to increase revenue and expenditure appropriations by $108,414 in the Parks and Recreation Department fiscal year 2026 miscellaneous grants fund for Parma Park maintenance and special projects. Item 8, acceptance of grant funds from the Parks and Recreation Community Foundation for the A.C. Postel Memorial Rose Garden Revitalization Project. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending resolution number 25-066, adopting the budget for fiscal year 2026 to increase revenue and expenditure appropriations by $20,000 in the Parks and Recreation Department fiscal year 2026 miscellaneous grant fund for the A.C. Postel Memorial Rose Garden Revitalization Project. Item 9, adoption of resolution for a street widening setback variance at 330 State Street. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the council of the city of Santa Barbara granting a street setback variance at 330 State Street, assessor parcel number 037-254-014 and 037-254-016, and authorizing execution of a street setback variance agreement. Item 10, electrical facilities cost-sharing agreement with Caltrans. Item 11, contract for construction of the fiscal year 2026 storm drain lining project.
All right, very good. Are there any items that need to be pulled for further discussion and/or separate vote by a council member?
Yes, Mayor Rouse, just item 6, just for comment, but can
Okay,
vote the same.
item 6. And Madam Clerk, are there any items that were pulled online or requested to be pulled online?
I have one public speaker online. Dylan M.
Is regarding a consent item?
I'm not certain. Dylan M., can you unmute yourself and let us know what you wish to speak on?
Hi, my name is Dylan Mancuso. I'm actually calling just in regard to public comment.
Okay, very good. We'll be right back with you then. We're going to finish consent calendar first then. If there are no other further items to be pulled, Ms. Sneddon, you wanted to comment on item 6?
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I really applaud this reorganization, and I'm very happy with the leadership and giving this department the recognition that it deserves. I'm very pleased to be seeing this move forward.
All right, very good. And with that, I will entertain a motion on the consent. You don't need to vote on this separately, correct? Right. On the consent calendar then. Moved by Sneddon, second by Friedman. May we have the vote, please, Madam Clerk?
Did it show up on your screen?
Oh, it must be because Ms. Santa Maria is not here. So, do you want to put an abstain in there for Mr. Friedman, or?
Honorable Mayor, why don't we just, if we can do just a roll call vote verbally at this point.
Roll call vote. Councilmember Friedman?
Yes.
Councilmember Santa Maria absent. Councilmember Gutierrez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sneddon?
Yes.
Councilmember Harmon?
Yes.
Councilmember Jordan? Absent. Mayor Rouse?
Aye. All right, passed unanimously. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll move to public comment, and that is 3 minutes at the dais for anything that is not on today's agenda but within the purview of this body. And we'll begin with Maurice Fisher.
Good afternoon, Mayor, fellow esteemed council members. My name is Maurice Fisher. I'm with the Small Business Administration, Office of Disaster and Recovery. I'm not going to take up a lot of your time, but what I wanted to let you know that we're here for the disaster, not the disaster, but the declaration that was for late December storms in 2025 that would specifically occur between 12/16 and 12/26 or 25. Also, I have some paperwork, some literature here, and it goes on to talk about the benefits of economic disaster loans, EIDLs for small business and nonprofits. This is our second day on the ground right here, so we're just getting out, meeting people, and our next stop would be, hopefully, will be the Chamber of Commerce as well. But we offer things such as up to $2 million to meet ordinary and necessary financial obligations. There are low fixed income rate, interest rates with up to terms up to 30 years, and no payment and no interest for 12 months. They do not need to wait for their insurance. They can do this in conjunction with their insurance. And the deadline to apply for this is November 6th of 2026. Other than that, like I said, it's just going to be short and sweet. I just wanted to get out, to see my face, be on the ground, and I'll leave some paperwork for y'all, some literature that can be handed out to y'all as well.
You can give it to the clerk, and not to frighten you, but that's the Chamber of Commerce standing right behind you, so.
Talk about the right place at the right time. In addition, lastly, being no stranger to this kind of work, I served 30 years with the state police in Texas. So this is my retirement deal, and I wanted to do something that I would be able to give back. And I can't think of a better way to give back than give back to the community. So I'll also leave cards. I got some cards for myself as well as my mentor, who is here with me, who's making sure I get everything right today. And that's her name is Yvette Cruz, and my name is Maurice Fisher. Again, thank you very much. Have a great day, and I'll hang out near the back of the class if anyone has any questions or anybody has any questions for me. It'll be great to talk to y'all.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, do you have a speaker online for public comment?
Yes, just one hand raised. Dylan M., go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Dylan Mancuso. I'm actually a business owner down on State Street. I own both Cuso's Bikes and Cuso's Creamery located on the 600 block on State Street. I spend a lot of time there speaking with people, talking with other business owners, and one of the general consensuses is we need a more consistent police presence on State Street. It feels that a lot of people have potentially a negative image of State Street in light of the fact that they feel it might be unsafe due to kids on e-bikes and the transient population, which truly is somewhat limited in any incidents with that. But at the bottom of it all is the lack of a police presence. And I'm here today to just ask, how can we fix this and work towards getting a more consistent police presence on State Street? That's all today.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, any further commenters online?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. And with that, we'll close public comment, and we will move on to item 12.
Item 12, Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber 5-year strategic plan.
Mr. Valdez.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Anthony Valdez, Deputy City Administrator. Before I introduce our friends behind me, I wanted to use the opportunity to reflect on the fact that at the last budget, the council and our city administrator had moved to have the city think more holistically about homelessness, housing, and economic development by creating the Deputy City Administrator position. I'm pleased to share that we have announced the name of our office, which is the Office of Housing and Community Vitality. And that office includes our State Street Planning team run by Tess Harris, our Parking Enterprise team run by Sarah Clark, our newest addition, our Housing and Homeless Services Manager, Carrie Payne, and myself, managing economic development initiatives. So as the city has been thinking strategically and holistically about how housing, homelessness, and economic development are all interrelated, at the same time, the Chamber has been doing a great job developing their strategic plan, which they recently released. And so with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Board Chair Randy Burke, Kristen Miller, who is President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, as well as Dustin Hoyseth, who is their Director of Economic Development. Take it away.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here. You know, 5 years ago, something extraordinary happened. A group of business leaders came together with an idea. They love this community, they believe in this region, and they want to do more. More for the community, more for the local economy, and more to protect and preserve the quality of life for everyone on the South Coast. They are laser focused on shrinking the gaps between our regions of Goleta, Santa Barbara, and Carpinteria, gaps between business relationships with government, gaps between the high-tech economy and tourism economy, between organizations working hard in parallel but not in partnership, and the painful gap between those thriving and those barely getting by. That group created a spark. It ignited a movement to unify our 3 chambers of commerce into one engine focused on strengthening our economy and closing those gaps. 5 years later, that spark has grown into a 10-person professional team, a bustling visitor center, 5 signature events, hundreds of ribbon cuttings, thousands of visitors greeted, more than 100 media stories every year. We have 850 members, 44 President's Circle partners, a board with extraordinary depth, 5 published policy reports, and real working relationships with every city and the county. We work closely with the waterfront, the airport, UC Santa Barbara, and City College. Nonprofits rely on us, major employers rely on us, small business relies on us. At this 5-year mark, we took significant time to listen, to study, and in these unpredictable times, we knew we needed a new clear North Star, a guide and a plan for the next 5 years. Our new strategic plan focuses on 5 strategies. 3 shape the region: elevating understanding of the business community's impact, supporting leaders who prioritize economic vitality, and cutting through red tape to make life easier for both businesses and residents. 2, build on the capacity to get that done, establishing an economic development foundation and growing membership, events, and visitor services. Our storytelling strategy isn't about so much consensus as about harnessing the power of our local stories, why business matters, who makes up the diverse faces of our unique and innovative small business community. And the Chamber itself is ready to grow. Since the merger, we have focused on our infrastructure like a lean startup. But the time has come to reach outward to the vast areas of our region and the deep corners of our neighborhoods, to invite every business to join us and participate. All of this is aimed at one essential outcome: strengthening the local economy. For decades, our local economy here on the South Coast may have thrived almost effortlessly on a rare combination of industry, innovation, and world-class beauty. But the world changed, and we didn't change along with it. Retail flipped, remote work reshaped housing demands, downtowns evolved, technology and AI rewired our daily lives, and policies designed decades ago to protect us have now become bottlenecks. Economic health doesn't happen organically anymore. Ensuring stable jobs, growing small business, and supporting new housing now requires a new level of intention, leadership, and public-private partnership. We're aware that the learning curve on some of this may be steep, may be vertical, for this work and to do things differently. The hardest thing any of us ever do is change our mind. You've already started. Your economic and economic development, housing, and downtown strategies is the beginning of real momentum. Change is hard, but our commitment is deep. A thriving community depends on strong jobs, strong small business, innovation, and visionary leadership. We are excited to share our plans and invite you to see yourself in this positive future working together. And now I'd like to introduce our board chair, Randy Berg, who helped lead us through this planning process.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, council members. My family has lived here for 40 years, and my career was deep in tech in the region. This is where my family and my wife work. My wife has built her career in nonprofits in the region. We raised 2 kids, bought an affordable home back in the 80s. Here's where we sail. This is where I'm raising my grandkids. I'm a lucky man. It's been an honor to serve as the chair of the Chamber. Last year, I was leading a remarkable board through a thoughtful, creative, and energizing process to imagine the Chamber's next 5 years. None of us believes that outsiders should design our future. We live here, we work here, we raise our families here, and we consider ourselves one of the stewards of this region. My personal focus has been on the Chamber's work in economic development, which is strengthening the talent pipeline. We want to open doors for students, especially those that have been underserved. We want to build connections that fuel long-term prosperity. I'm incredibly excited to let you know that we have merged with a group called SCORE. SCORE is now called BEAM under the Chamber's umbrella, and they support startups and entrepreneurs at no cost. to give them services, coaching, and enable them to thrive. Economic development isn't just a strategy. It's an existential imperative. When we get it right, we don't just improve numbers on some chart. We change lives. We want to be a part of that. Over the past year, we met with past chairs of the chamber, members, non-members, employers, large, small, nonprofits, and many of you. We heard clearly that there's a gap between the business and the government side, and we understood and have seen that you've showed up, that you've been accessible, and that you have had opportunities like this and other times for us to share. But the system for working together predictably, consistently, productively is way too complicated. We want to close the gap. We want to connect the deep reservoir of business thinkers and community-minded individuals to serve on commissions, boards, and elected office, and to help this community move forward with a focus on vitality. With that, I'll hand it to Dustin, who will be leading this next major initiative of ours. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Hello, council members. It's good to see you. Today, I'm proud to announce the formation of the Santa Barbara Economic Development Foundation, a separate 501c3 linked to but distinct from the chamber. This is a modern, proven model used by chambers throughout the country, which allows us to expand our work beyond just membership services in order to support the full business community. My role previously as the Director of Public Policy is shifting to Director of Economic Development to focus entirely on this effort. That means continuing the workforce pipeline efforts the Chamber has led for the past 2 years, engaging more businesses in order to help local youth and underemployed residents connect with high mobility jobs in our community. The foundation will also expand the Chamber's efforts around workforce housing solutions and business retention programs, critical to a healthy economy. The foundation will work to partner with every city, the county, City College, UCSB, and others to deliver programs that support quality jobs for every level of our workforce. One of the first major initiatives of the Santa Barbara Economic Development Foundation will be to gather and share reliable local economic and business data. This data will help governments, businesses, and community members make decisions based upon more timely, localized data. We as a community often find ourselves wanting for data and needing to operate on assumptions. The foundation aims to address this challenge so our community can feel more confident that we are making the right decisions to create change and economic opportunity. And of course, all of this progress depends on tackling our policy bottlenecks. During the strategic planning process, permit reform rose to the top as the number one issue, as the number one priority across every sector, whether it be small businesses, large businesses, nonprofits, and even residents. As a community, we have known for some time that something needs to change. We definitely have some policy reform wins that we can celebrate over the years, but there's still so much more to do. This isn't something that the council or staff can be expected to take on their own. Strategic, specific, and timely input is needed from the business community, and the Chamber is committed to partnering with the city to gather that input and convene those conversations. Momentum is here, the community is ready, and local government is leaning in. And our job, my job, is to help push these reforms forward and strengthen our reputation as a business-friendly region. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Kristen.
Thank you, Dustin. Our focus in the years ahead remains anchored in 3 industries that shape the strength of our region: high tech, hospitality, and healthcare. When these sectors flourish, our whole community rises. And here in the city of Santa Barbara, hospitality and tourism remain the heartbeat of our economy, with the big bet for the future being the blue economy. Tourism is the most visible and measurable economic indicator of the city's future for the next 5 years. We can measure overnight stays in local hotels. But what's less obvious is the Chamber's role, our role, which is less numeric and more deeply human. For more than 25 years, our visitor services team has offered warm welcomes, genuine recommendations, and real connections. These small moments echo across our economy. Visitor spending doesn't just support businesses, it sustains jobs. The number of visitors in town can mean the difference between a part-time shift and a full-time stable livelihood. Our work here will continue to grow because it matters to families across the region. Now, with our 5-year plan in place, we look to our friends at the city, the county, City College, the university, the neighborhoods, the waterfront, the nonprofits, the arts and culture communities to join us in a mindset of growth, innovation, creativity, interdependence, and visionary leadership. We carry big dreams, big hearts, big plans, grounded in real success, real fundamentals, and an unwavering belief in what this community can achieve together. Thank you.
Thank you. This is not an action item, so what I'd like to do is go ahead and let the public speaker that's here speak, and then we'll go ahead and come to comments and questions, all right? Amy Steinfeld.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I'm Amy Steinfeld, the Office Managing Partner of Brownstein's downtown Santa Barbara office. We recently moved our 45 employees back to 1020 State Street, and we're thrilled to be part of the revitalization of State Street. As a member of the Chamber's Board of Directors, I'm proud of the 5-year plan that we've outlined. Following a year of community outreach and intense strategic planning discussions with our directors and our local business leaders, the Regional Chamber is dedicated to the vision that a stronger business community means a stronger local economy, which leads to better outcomes for all residents, and also a higher tax base to support the city's critical services. I'm particularly excited about 2 of the strategic priorities. The first is that the Chamber will be serving as a central convener and trusted hub for regional economic growth, as you heard. And the second one, which is near and dear to my heart, is to advocate for smart, consistent public policies that support business and community success. With the formation of a new economic development foundation under the Chamber's umbrella, the Chamber can continue its work to build a sustainable workforce development program and also to increase its capacity to be the trusted economic development partner of local jurisdictions like the City of Santa Barbara. This partnership also means addressing the very real policy bottlenecks that exist within our communities. As a land use attorney, I'm very aware of what it takes to get a permit in this city and the other cities within the county of Santa Barbara. It shouldn't take a team of land use attorneys and land use planners to, for example, build a house, a new development, or to expand a business. We understand, however, these bottlenecks exist for a reason, and it can be very difficult to peel back the historic context. That's why a partnership between the city, the Chamber, and our local business community is so important. When we work together, we believe we can accomplish so much more. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments online?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We have Randall Hernandez with his hand raised. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm Randall Hernandez with the Power of Public Affairs and a member of the Chamber Board of Directors. First of all, I want to extend my thanks to the city for your continued collaboration, and hopefully we can expand on our partnership as we move the Chamber's strategic plan to action in support of regional economic growth. I'm especially excited about the opportunities to work together on the economic development initiatives to attract new investment, expand jobs and small business opportunities, and most importantly, strengthen the city's tax base. Over my decades of work in the corporate sector and as former chief of staff to the mayor of Long Beach, I've been actively engaged in economic development initiatives across the state. The success of these efforts depends greatly on a strong public-private partnership. In addition to Santa Barbara Chamber, one of the other organizations I'm involved in is the Long Beach Economic Partnership. The LBEP works hand in hand with city government leaders to promote Long Beach and advance economic development opportunities. We're really proud to have a close working relationship with Mayor Rex Richardson and the entire city council there. As a reflection of their commitment to economic development, the city has recently approved a multi-year $1.2 million funding commitment, which includes support from the airport in Long Beach. These city funds serve as a foundation, but the Economic Partnership will also work aggressively to increase funding through private sector investment as well as through corporate and government grants. Mayor Richardson has been laser focused on not only growing the economy, but also diversifying the tax base. This is a key strategy for the city as it sees its tax revenues from oil production on the decline in coming years. Here in Santa Barbara, the chamber is uniquely positioned with private, public, and academic leaders already at the table. They can lead a citywide economic development effort as outlined in the Chamber Strategic Plan. With the formation of a new economic development foundation under the Chamber, we can continue to do our work to, one, build sustainable workforce and small business development opportunities, two, attract new investment in commercial and residential development, three, be a trusted economic development convener for local partners, and again, to underscore the importance of part of the job is to help the city increase our tax revenue and to diversify our tax base. And that's going to be done through a very strong economic development program. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today.
Thank you. Further commenters online?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. And with that, I'll take it back to council for comments and questions. You can do them all together if you like. Ms. Sned.
Thank you, Mayor Bowes, and thank you for coming today. It's always good to see you. I feel like we haven't had a major update in a while, so this is really exciting. Some things that stand out to me in your presentation, I'm really happy to hear that you'll have sort of a separate focus on economic development regionally. And I'm remembering a few years back, really innovative ideas with public-private partnerships in workforce housing. So it sounds like that's part of this plan too, moving forward, and that's really exciting. I'm very interested in the workforce development, and I was really happy to hear you mentioning UCSB, City College, and then with that, the Blue Economy. And I'm sure you're aware of the Ocean Collective at City College, and they are currently developing curriculum around the Blue Economy, and they need data. So I'm really happy to hear that there will be a partnership in data sharing too about where those jobs are and which courses and which workforce to be developing through that. I think that was really useful information. And then also not to forget about the green economy as well. I mean, I know it's blue and green, but they are somewhat different, and I think it's a real opportunity there. Complete agreement about the permit bottlenecks, and we've had different sort of pulses of time when we've made major changes in that, and I think this is one of those times. We really welcome. And I would just ask that we sort of think also about sustainability in general as sort of it's part of our brand. It's part of ecotourism and why people love living here, visiting here. So as we're developing other things like big tech or other things, just really keeping that in mind, the environmental impacts of that. But really, thank you for opening this dialogue and coming today.
Mr. Friedman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to the Chamber for being here today. And Ms. Miller and Mr. Berg, thanks for being the chair when you were finalizing this last year and all the work you did through this. It's a great start moving forward, and excited about the new nonprofit that you're funneling, because I think that will give us more opportunities for the public-private partnerships that are so integral in a lot of different ways, whether it's building the workforce, building housing, infrastructure that can serve local businesses, and the permitting. I did have a couple of questions. Maybe I'll start with Mr. Valdez or maybe the Chamber, but you mentioned one, housing is obviously a challenge, and then permitting, but what are maybe one or two other things that we should be focusing on in the 5 years that are high on the priority to help us from the city perspective of what we could do to improve economic development?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the State Street initiative was kind of the perfect example where we said, we should also be talking about housing. How do we, use this opportunity to, as we look at economic diversification, also using this opportunity for housing. I think there's a few opportunities. A couple of them have already been mentioned. One of them is there's a lot of work that's been done at the state and regional levels around kind of figuring out what industries are best for the area. And Santa Barbara, the staff have not been completely plugged in to much of that work that has been done. So really kind of taking a close look and saying, where does Santa Barbara fit in? And how do we create social mobility? How do we make sure that as we're trying to bring tech and other high-paying jobs, that the kids that grow up here are the ones that are able to partake in those, receive the education and can afford to live here. So I think that's one of them. Another is the airport and the waterfront. So, you know, our airport has seen a 4% growth year over year. They are hustling to add parking and a terminal to meet the demand, but they just haven't had the capacity to look at that 100 acres next to the airport and work on developing it. Same with the waterfront. A lot of work to modernize, and there is some opportunity to add some concessions as well. So bringing on a firm that specializes in this work and really working on tying those in. So those are, I think, the third big one, and then I'll stop because I can keep going. The third big one, I think, is supporting our business districts, right? Not just talking about State Street. There are so many vibrant business districts around the city that need support. So figuring out a way that we as a city, with the resources that we have a small but mighty team at the city. So how do we contract out some of that work to provide support to our business districts around the city?
Great, thank you. Those are all important, and it kind of sets the stage for the partnership that we're going forward, because you said we have a small team here at the city.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to grow it to the size that we need, so that's where the chamber can definitely be a resource for us. And then really those are all, you answered the questions very well, because I wanted to understand what we could be doing in the future and looking forward. And then again, to the chamber, the Economic Development Foundation will be a great opportunity, and I'm looking forward to talking with Ms. Miller, Mr. Berg some more, and Dustin as well, since you're going to be leading it. So I want to make sure you're a part of those discussions, just to understand what your vision is with that, how it fits in with the chamber's plan, but also you're going to have to develop your own plan for that as well. So this is really exciting. And then the public-private partnerships, again, are extremely important, and how we also work with our education institutions throughout the region here. And a priority that I've always looked at and have had conversations with all you folks in the past is how do, especially with UCSB, with the tech juggernaut that it is, how do we keep the students who go on to graduate and are the entrepreneurs and the startups here, how do we make it a more business-friendly environment so that they stay here? Because we're educating them here, they want to stay here, but there's different stages of economic development. When you're doing a startup, you don't have the resources to be able to afford a place to rent or for your business. And if we can get through that stage, then grow it. So those are things that I would like to talk with you some more about offline.
We have ideas.
I'm sure you do, and that's why we're going to talk. So, but again, thanks. This is a great first step, and appreciate you coming forward today. I echo my colleagues' comments on that, and glad to have you here to look forward to the next 5 years. Thanks.
Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all for taking on this endeavor. I really appreciate it. My question is, how much outreach are you going to do internationally? Because I've gone on some sister city trips and met with some city officials from all over the world, and also business owners from all over the world. And they're very eager to do business with Santa Barbara. The mayor and I actually just met with some business owners from Japan last week, and I want to make sure that we have someone they could refer to when they have their questions about what it's like to start a business or run a business in Santa Barbara. So do you all have any intentions on reaching out internationally?
One of the key pieces that would close a gap that we have right now in an ability to do that is bringing all of the regions together. So in this Santa Barbara Economic Development Foundation, which we hope to include all 3 cities in the county and the university that I've described several times, gives us more of a capacity to do that, so that you're not just speaking from one city, but from the region.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, any other further questions or comments? With that, thank you very much for the presentation. And with that, Madam Clerk, we'll move on to item 13.
Item 13, introduction of ordinance to regulate single-use materials. Recommendation that council introduce and subsequently adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending Section 2.42.040, Chapter 9.160, and Chapter 9.165, and repealing Chapter 9.150 of the Santa Barbara Municipal Code relating to expanded polystyrene, single-use plastics, and solid waste reduction.
Thank you. Mr. Friedman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After consulting with the City Attorney's Office, I will be recusing myself from this item pursuant to the Political Reform Act. The reasoning is that I am employed by a grocery store that sells or uses some of the items which are directly regulated by this ordinance, so I will be leaving the dais and will not participate in the discussion or the vote today. Thank you.
All right, very good. And with that, we'll go ahead with the presentation.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. My name is Daniela Rosales, and I am here today to present you with a proposal to update our single-use materials regulations. In December, the Ordinance Committee reviewed the draft ordinance and voted unanimously in favor of forwarding staff's recommendation to Council. Prior to that, the Sustainability Council Committee also voted in support of forwarding the ordinance. Today, I will provide you with an overview of the proposed updates and inform you of the outreach that we've done so far. Currently, the city has a few ordinances related to single-use materials. We are proposing to amend Municipal Code Chapters 9.160 and 9.165. We are also proposing to repeal Chapter 9.150 because it has been superseded by recent state legislation. We are proposing this update because of the impact that plastic has on our community and the environment. Single-use plastics are used for a very short amount of time, but can last hundreds of years in our environment and the landfill. This is because plastic does not biodegrade like organic materials do. Single-use plastics are also very difficult to recycle because they are often contaminated with food residue. This results in a majority of single-use food and beverage containers being landfilled. These items fill our landfills, pollute our streets and waterways, and eventually become microplastics. Local ordinances can help reduce the impact of plastic on our local community. The objectives of the draft ordinance are to reduce single-use waste in our landfill, incentivize reusables, and reduce litter. Our goal is to support businesses in the transition to safer alternatives through education and outreach. Next, I'll go ahead and provide an overview of each section of the draft ordinance. In 2019, the city banned polystyrene foam containers. We are proposing to amend Chapter 9.160 of the Municipal Code to add rigid polystyrene products to the ban. This would prohibit items such as rigid polystyrene cups, foodware, and packaging materials from being sold in stores or distributed in restaurants. Golita and Carpinteria have already banned these items as well. Exemptions will be available if a business can't find an alternative item for something like rotisserie chicken polystyrene trays, for example. Next, we are proposing a new standard for disposable foodware. This will require amending Municipal Code Chapter 9.165. We've included this update to align with the standard that's been set in neighboring jurisdictions, but also because plastic and bioplastic foodware cannot be recycled or composted at the County Resource Center. The update would make it so that any to-go foodware that is distributed to customers can be composted after disposal. During Earth Day, we conducted a survey, and many of the people who visited our booth wanted to see plastic to-go containers banned. So this would address that request. Exemptions will be available if a business can't find a feasible alternative or if they need more time to find a compliant item. Next, we are proposing a limited single-use plastic water bottle ban. We incorporated feedback from the Sustainability Council Committee and limited this ban to small 8 fluid ounce plastic water bottles. The sale and distribution of these water bottles would be banned in the city. In addition, we are also proposing to prohibit aseptic beverage containers, such as juice boxes and Tetra Pak, at city-owned and operated facilities. This section would only apply to city facilities and not the public. To support the change, the city would seek to add water refill stations and launch a public education campaign on water quality and plastic pollution impacts. Exemptions would be provided for emergencies, social services, and for public health and safety. The next section would prohibit the sale of Mylar balloons as well as plastic and Mylar confetti. The concern with these materials is that Mylar balloons can cause power outages and wildfires when they get caught in power lines. Plastic confetti can harm wildlife when ingested. Residents and businesses will still be able to purchase latex balloons and are encouraged to use safer alternatives such as paper confetti for celebrations. To assist with confetti cleanup, we helped Downtown Parking purchase a new 100% electric vacuum. We had a public naming contest, and the Grime Reaper came out at number 1. We recently gave the vacuum a makeover and presented it at a Trunk or Treat event to raise some awareness about litter, which you can see pictured here. These cleanup efforts will help us to supplement the proposed confetti regulations. One of the primary focuses of the proposed ordinance is reusable foodware. Over the past year, I've been meeting with various jurisdictions across California as part of a foodware ordinance working group. The jurisdictions are saying that the best thing we can do to reduce waste is to promote reusables and help build infrastructure to support reusable programs. Reusables should be our top priority, and we can supplement with compostable disposables where needed. As such, the ordinance would also require food and beverages served for on-site consumption to be served on reusable foodware only. Last year, we conducted a survey to get an idea of how many businesses were using disposables for on-site dining options. Of the 282 businesses that we surveyed, 56 used disposable foodware to serve food and beverages on-site. Some businesses cited space constraints or limited staffing as reasons for not implementing dishwashing. The city would seek to provide grants for dishwashers and reusable foodware to assist businesses with the transition to reusables where possible. The ordinance would also require permitted events to ensure that at least 10% of the beverages served at the event are served in reusable cups. Plastic and bioplastic cups are not recyclable through the city's collection system and are landfilled. Event organizers would be required to state how they plan to meet the requirement in the event permit application. To implement the requirement, the city would adopt a phased approach. The requirement would only apply to city-led events in the first year and to all other permitted events thereafter. The city is exploring a grant program and partnering with a reusable cup wash service. Exemptions would also be provided for cases of undue hardship or practical difficulty. The next section applies to our carryout bag ordinance. As you may have seen in stores, starting this year, the state has banned all plastic bags. We propose repealing Municipal Code Chapter 9.150 and adopting the state's language. The bill also requires a 50% paper bag recycled content requirement by 2028. Stores can distribute paper bags or sell reusable textile bags. Prior to today's council meeting, we have done a couple of rounds of outreach to better inform the ordinance. We identified 56 businesses who use disposables to serve food on site. We also recently went door to door to 157 businesses and distributed informational flyers with the council data and about the ordinance that we're presenting today. A majority of the businesses gave us positive feedback and expressed that the proposed changes seemed feasible. Many businesses expected the changes already because many of the updates have already been implemented in Goleta. A few businesses had concerns about finding alternative containers for specialty items. To address those concerns, our staff will help those businesses identify specific items and alternatives that could work for them. During our outreach, we also found that we had almost 100% compliance with our foam ban. The picture shown on screen shows a local business that switched from styrofoam to washables. Examples like this show us that changes can be made over time and that our business community is willing to work with us. Overall, we received feedback and significantly less objection during our outreach compared to when we banned styrofoam back in 2019. In an effort to better understand reusable programs, we partnered with Dune Coffee last summer to launch a reusable coffee cup pilot program. We offered customers $1 off if they brought in their own cup or if they chose a For Here cup. Customers could also opt for a reusable clay cup free of charge instead of the disposable cup. Dune reported that compared to the 3 months prior to the pilot, the number of customers who brought in their own cup doubled. A total of about 17,000 reusable cups were used during the pilot period. With the insight that we gained from the experience, we are looking forward to implementing more reusable programs and continuing to promote reusable cups. We know that implementation is one of the top concerns that the community may have. Our division has had experience implementing single-use materials ordinances in the past. Our approach has always been to prioritize education and give businesses as many resources as they need and as we can to help them successfully transition away from single-use plastics. We recently hired a new full-time bilingual code enforcement officer and a recycling educator to help us with the implementation. The feedback we received from our door-to-door outreach was that many of the businesses just needed to adjust a few items to achieve compliance. Businesses will have resources, incentives, assistance, and exemptions available to them to reach the end goal. Enforcement of the ordinance would be handled by the Sustainability and Resilience Code Enforcement team. Violations of the ordinance are subject to the city's general penalty language from chapters 1.25 and 1.28. The first violation is a written notice, and subsequent violations range from $100 to $250. In our experience, we haven't had to issue any penalties related to our previous single-use materials ordinances, and education and outreach is our top priority when implementing any changes. So we want to meet businesses where they are and find a path forward that works for them and their operations. Today, we are recommending that Council introduce and subsequently adopt, by reading of title only, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending Section 2.42040, Chapter 9.160, and Chapter 9.165, and repealing Chapter 9.150 of the Santa Barbara Municipal Code relating to expanded polystyrene, single-use plastics, and solid waste reduction. This concludes the presentation. Thank you.
All right, very good. We have questions for staff. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. So I've been talking to some balloon advocates, and
Yeah.
what I'm wondering is, instead of banning out the product completely, can we add more of the responsibility of the disposal of the product onto the customer by printing on each individual balloon the information of the customer? So for example, in Isla Vista, they were having an issue with underage drinking. So what they did was they would print the information of the person who purchased a keg of beer onto the keg, so that if police were to apprehend underage people while drinking at these parties, the person who purchased the keg was held responsible for each individual underage person drinking. So the logic is, if each balloon has the information of the person who is purchasing the balloon on it and is therefore found littered or what have you, and they're held accountable for that, is that something that we could implement?
Councilmember Gutierrez, of course, with the direction of the council, we could. It may be difficult, and it may put more responsibility on the business at the end of the day anyway, if they're having to make sure they're tracking and recording everybody's information or collecting the information. I did receive an inquiry to speak to one of the members of the Coalition for a Responsible Celebration. I did contact them, but I did not receive a call back. So happy to discuss with them any more of the concerns or the nuances related to balloon enforcement.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor. Councilmember Gutierrez, I think you said the correct term is, difficulty enforcement. With alcohol, I totally get the analogy, but also there's a responsibility criminally, state law, especially for serving minors alcohol. For enforcement purposes, to establish a case for like how it got in possession from either selling it or giving it to it by the original seller or owner is much more difficult. It's just easier to enforce on the possession of. And also too, I think the goal always of city council on their enforcement on a lot of the municipal code issues is educational first and working through that. And so I think that would help staff with whoever has a possession, educating them before going to the next level, and continuing education with those that sell the balloons and all that. So, but I think you hit the nail on the head of it being difficulty. So the one part is, that's why the ordinance is written the way it is.
Ms. Santa Maria.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. I had a quick question for our staff. As we are looking at regulating some of these purchases made by individual residents, how are we, or do we have anything in mind to mitigate the online purchase of these products? So for example, if we talk about balloons or any of these other things, our own local businesses may no longer sell them, but if residents opt in to just purchase it on Amazon or somewhere else, it seems to me that we would still have the same issue with pollution, right? If folks still are not disposing of them properly. Do we have anything that we're looking into about that?
Councilmember Santa Maria, we can look back to our styrofoam ordinance, which was very similar, in which we only ban the sale and the distribution within the city. However, there's still possibility that people can buy from the next town over if it wasn't banned there, or can buy online, as you mentioned. So that is correct. People could still purchase online. We do find ultimately that banning it locally and banning people from accessing it locally does reduce a lot of the convenience that people have from purchasing. although I know that it is very easy to purchase online. But we do find that that does reduce the number significantly and does a majority of the work, which I think is ultimately the goal when we want to reduce the pollution that these items bring into the environment. And we can do more public education as well to make sure that the public is aware that these are items that pollute, whether you buy them online and if they're banned locally.
Thank you. As a follow-up to that, do we have any data or information to look back on from our styrofoam ban from 2019 that would show us that pollution does drop once it is banned here locally?
Councilmember Santa Maria, we have done, like I said, the survey that we've done, so we've seen it reduce. And cleanups as well, we have data of how many cleanups we do and what we observe. I know some of the local groups in town also, like Channel Keeper, a lot of the cleanup groups in town have done studies of the reduction that they've seen over the years. So that would be our main source.
Okay, thank you so much. I was not on the council when that ordinance passed, but if it would be possible either through our city administrator's office or directly through sustainability, I would love to see some of that information, because I do know that there is the concern from some local businesses that the ordinance may hurt the businesses while not really doing anything for the pollution aspect. And so if there is some clear data that shows that, this type of step does mitigate that pollution, I mean, I would love to see it. Thank you so much.
Mr. Attorney?
Just some really good enforcement, Honorable Mayor, some really good enforcement questions today. So to also help Councilmember Santa Maria to answer her question as well. So the city has difficulty. We can't regulate online purchases. Our jurisdictional reach doesn't go there because that deals with the Commerce Clause and preemption, but we can regulate, obviously, conduct within the city. So that's why our limit for at least online purchases is very, very limited on that. So just wanted to provide that information.
All right, very good. I have a couple of questions. In the rigid polystyrene section, you talked, I think you hit on the thing about the meat trays, like when you go to a grocery store and some fresh kind of protein is on a tray. Now, that is rigid polystyrene. What is the answer for that in terms of what they're going to do?
Yes, Mayor Rouse. For polystyrene products, they've been banned in other cities and they've been banned locally in Goleta as well. And what we've seen is that, especially the corporate stores, they have begun to find these solutions. So, for example, at Costco, instead of having them in trays now, they serve their rotisserie chickens in bags. I believe that's one of the changes they've implemented. So the corporate stores have definitely been finding more of these alternatives, and they've implemented them already. They just haven't implemented them here. There are options, and if it is, as you mentioned, a tray or something that they just don't have an alternative for at the moment, our goal is to make sure that they're looking for those solutions, having good faith efforts, switching them where possible, and then applying for exemptions in the areas where it just isn't feasible.
Well, that was a move they made back when we did ban expanded polystyrene. It was good, but I was just kind of curious, because I know when we did the plastic bag ordinance back when we did it, we had a lot of input and exchange with the California Grocers Association. Has your department done the same?
Yes, Mayor Rouse. We went out to the grocery stores themselves. The Grocers Association did reach out to us when we went to Ordinance Committee, and they commented there. So they have our information and are welcome to discuss any of the products that they may feel are
Well, just
difficult.
because, for example, when Costco or somebody buys their trays, they buy like an 18-wheeler full of trays, and so there has to be some kind of mechanism for amortizing that inventory for those different businesses. When it comes to plastic straws, that was another very famous episode in our history. And then one of the issues was having to have them on request because of disabled and different. Does this stay in that same realm, or what? Because right now, people can request plastic straws and get them, which is, And I know that most of us, I was in a business back then where we just voluntarily were ready to do that, and then we did the law, and then the law became depenalized because of some national embarrassment, the way we launched it. So, question would be, would this change that? Would there be still the ability to have a straw on request, plastic straw?
Mayor Rouse, this would not change that. Businesses can continue to have the plastic straws on request for ADA purposes.
And would there be a monetary penalty reinstated for the plastic straw part of the ordinance, in this ordinance?
The monetary penalty has always been there. It's the general language, standard language for penalties that's associated to the straw
We
ordinance.
took that out of there because of what happened nationally. I'm pretty sure we did, but I'll leave it at that. I don't want to argue about that right now, but I'm just kind of concerned because, I mean, even Kenny Loggins made a video about that, the danger zone, if you guys might remember. Okay, and in terms of like the water bottles themselves, so you have so many, convenience stores, Rite Aid, CVS, people like that sell those kinds of things. Once again, I'm looking at the larger part of the market research on that and how that went and what your results were in terms of doing that.
Yes, Mayor Rouse. We were looking at other cities that had banned water bottles, such as Tahoe and Truckee, who went ahead and banned them completely. When we were considering updates to the ordinance, we were looking at what other cities have done, but also as Santa Barbara is known for being an innovative city when it comes to our material bans, we wanted to look at what we could do to really push things forward. That was one of the items that we looked at, and Sustainability Committee ultimately decided that we should look at maybe starting small with just the 8-ounce water bottles.
Well, once again, that was that larger picture thing from people that, like the California Grocers Association, organizations like that could give us an update on what that actually meant. Because I know, and you mentioned later with the packaging, the little juice boxes and whatnot, how sometimes in emergency situations, or if you go to direct relief, you'll see sacks and sacks of those kinds of things. So you just kind of wondered if that had been taken into consideration. And then the last thing, when we did some of the ideas before, and I was actually in the restaurant business at that time, the idea of customers bringing in things, for example, like reusable to-go things to take materials out, and even cups and whatnot, was a bit of a concern for environmental health, for the health department, because you can bring something that's contaminated, and then you're bringing a contaminated thing to bring in fresh food. Is that part of, has that been part of the consideration? Have we been in touch with the county health department on those kinds of ideas and considerations for this program?
Mayor Rouse, as you mentioned, we have discussed with the public health department in the past about those ideas. In this case, a lot of the reusable components in the ordinance are not as much for customers to bring their own in, but for the businesses who are completely serving disposables on site every day for their operations to have reusables for the customers. So we haven't discussed that section, mainly because we didn't include that in this specific update.
And the last question about that, since you brought the disposables on site, some smaller operators, particularly because of expanding labor costs where they're kind of hanging on by their fingernails right now, have done it precisely that because of the labor of doing that. And I see the point of not using, for example, a plastic ramekin, but then you have to have a washable ramekin, which involves machinery, labor, that kind of thing. So I'm a little concerned about certain kinds of small operators being impacted by that. Part of your universe of concerns in this ordinance?
Mayor Rouse, from our survey, where the 56 of those businesses were serving disposables on site, I will say a majority were larger businesses, corporations such as McDonald's, Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, those types of businesses that are serving mainly everything on disposables. The smaller businesses, the taquerias, the smaller ones, we only had a handful of those who were really doing everything on disposables on site. And so really we would want to assess what the possibilities are, see where we can provide financial and technical assistance to see if we can change any of those items, whether it's a cup or a plate, even if it can't be the entire inventory that they have.
Okay, very good. Are there any further questions from council? With that, then we'll go to public comment. First one is Kathy King.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Kathy King, and I'm the Director of Education at the Community Environmental Council. It has been 20 years since I first appeared before this body asking for single-use plastics reduction. At that time, a young Doss Williams was on the City Council, along with some climate deniers who did not believe our claims that plastic in our environment was a threat. No laws were passed in the city for 6 more years. Since then, our region as a whole has passed 9 laws restricting plastic distribution, and we now have many studies backing up those claims that plastic, a fossil fuel product, is harmful to our fresh water, our soil, our air, our marine environment, and our bodies. Some of us remember the transition from VHS to DVD. I don't remember anyone mourning the loss of VHS tapes. Moving from fossil plastic to new types of product is the same thing we need, and we need the policy to push that forward. I hope you will see what's before you today in that light so we can make some progress together. Thank you.
Okay, Penny Owens.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council members. My name is Penny Owens, and I'm the Education Director with Santa Barbara Channel Keeper. First, we just want to say thank you to the city staff and to some of the council members who have heard this issue several times already for your support and leadership on this. Channel Keeper works to protect and preserve our beautiful channel and its watersheds, our creeks that drain to our beaches and out to the ocean. We are very active with community cleanup events, and we regularly, unfortunately, still see single-use plastics. Is this the end-all solution? Of course not. Is this a step in the right direction? Absolutely. Is this something the city of Santa Barbara can do to help change behaviors that will ultimately protect our waterways and the ocean? Yes. I'd also like to say that for a long time, Channel Keeper, we have a research vessel, we're out on the water. We regularly pick up Mylar balloons. We see them out at the Channel Islands, on our beach cleanups, on the backside of Santa Cruz Island. I've seen them personally high up in the Sierras, far away from civilization. And I just saw one blowing away in the air, sadly, on my drive home from work the other week. We've tried education, and in fact, Channel Keeper even has a show your love in a different way, please don't release Mylar balloons, social media post this week. Education wasn't enough to change behavior. And so we'd like to encourage the city to include that Mylar ban and as part of these policies, and also join the city of Goleta and Carpinteria that have taken the same action. In addition to helping to protect the environment, these policies will also help the city to comply with the state's zero trash policy that is coming up, trash-free by 2030. We have a few years, but this is a step in the right direction. So thank you again for your work on this. We look forward to the city of Santa Barbara being part of the solution and providing further protection to our creeks, our beaches, and our ocean. Thank you.
Thank you. Commenters online, Madam Clerk?
Yes, there's 4 hands raised. First person being Maria Stockham. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Thanks, and good afternoon, Mayor and council members. My name is Maria Stockham, and I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Responsible Celebration. I'm here today representing dozens of Santa Barbara businesses and balloon artists who live and work in this community, from independent creatives to neighborhood retailers, all of whom would be directly impacted by the proposed balloon ban. This week, as many of us know, is Valentine's Day, one of the most important times of the year for balloon use and gifting, which is why many of these small businesses wanted to be here but couldn't afford to step away from working on customer orders. For many families, balloons are an affordable, meaningful way to celebrate love and connection for Valentine's Day, birthdays, quinceañeras, weddings, school events, and other milestones. The vast majority of this use happens indoors and is responsibly managed. Like the city, our industry cares deeply about environmental protection. We are united in supporting zero tolerance for intentional balloon releases. Balloons were never meant to be released, and that behavior should not be acceptable in Santa Barbara. However, banning the sale or use of balloons does not address that behavior. Across the country, sales bans have simply shifted purchases online or to neighboring communities, while responsible local businesses and artists absorb the economic harm without achieving the intended environmental outcome. There are more targeted, effective options the city could consider. Education works, especially when it's visible and consistent. Our organization has developed clear, responsible use materials that cities successfully share through websites, social media, and community outreach to reinforce proper use and disposal. Another option is permitting approach for certain uses, where responsible practices are required as a condition of use. This allows the city to set clear expectations, support compliance, and protect the environment without eliminating responsible celebrations or local livelihoods. If sales are banned, the opportunity for direct behavioral education disappears, even as consumer demand continues elsewhere. That means our shared goal will not be achieved. We are here as collaborative partners and stand ready to support solutions that are effective, proportional, and community-focused. And Councilmember Gutierrez, we are definitely interested in working together on some of your ideas. Thanks for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
If your phone number ends in 9842, can you please go ahead and unmute yourself?
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and council members. My name is Susie, and I'm here on behalf of Mayflower. We are a distributor that services the grocery and retail locations throughout Santa Barbara, including stores like Bonds and Smart & Final. We appreciate the city's commitment to protecting the environment, and we share that goal. No balloon belongs on the beach, in a waterway, or anywhere else. What I'd like to share today is how balloons are used and distributed in Santa Barbara. Most balloons supplied with our retailer partners are used indoors for birthdays and graduations, holidays, and family gatherings. A ban on balloon sales would not eliminate the customer demand. It would simply shift purchases online or to neighboring communities, while removing the revenue from Santa Barbara retailers and impacting local jobs without meaningfully improving environmental outcomes. From what we've seen across California, the environmental issue is driven by intentional balloon releases, not everyday retail use. Mayflower supports a zero-tolerance approach to intentional releases paired with strong education and clear messaging to our customers. We respectfully encourage the city to consider these targeted education-based approaches that addresses the real issue while allowing Santa Barbara businesses to continue serving their communities responsibly. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Sky Young, if you'll go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Hello?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Tai Young, and I'm the owner of Balloon Story here in Santa Barbara. First of all, I want to say that this is very dear to my heart, and to speak about the power outages. Mylar balloons, I just want to make a point that they can also be filled with air and not helium, and then they are grounded and they cannot float. And then it's very unlikely that they can get to any electrical wiring or cause any outrages. And I want also to emphasize that Santa Barbara is my home. I live here, I work here, and I'm raising my children here. Like you, I care deeply about protecting the environment and preserving the natural beauty and values of this community. Environmental responsibility guides my work every day. Each balloon creation is thoughtfully built, securely installed, and carefully removed at the end of the event. Materials are reused whenever possible, and all the latex balloons I use are eco-friendly, made from natural renewable resources, and are biodegradable. They are not plastic. Responsible, mindful local artists and small business owners like myself are part of the solution. Our work includes hands-on management, reuse, education, and accountability. I'd like to share what this work means on a human level to me. Every Thanksgiving, I create a special installation for a special young woman in our community, whose birthday fall on that day. She lives with cerebral palsy and communicates through her eyes, her expression, and her smile. She has an amazing and loving family, and what might seem like an impossible situation from the outside, in reality, her home is filled with life, love, and gratitude, laughter, and celebration. Each year, we fill a room and a hospital bed with color, shapes, movement, and playful balloon design. When she sees them, her whole face lights up. And every year, I leave her birthday feeling that I am the one who received the gift. A deeper sense of a perspective, gratitude, and appreciation for life, and the simple power of celebrating it. Because in that moment, balloons are not decoration. They are joy, they are comfort, they are connection when it matters the most. Balloons also play a meaningful role in healthcare setting. At Cottage Hospital, for example, only Mylar balloons are used to protect patients with latex sensitivity and to ensure that everyone can still experience moments of encouragement, celebration, and the simple joy that balloons bring. I have seen how balloon
Thank you.
creation brings light.
That's your time. Thank you. Next
Nick
speaker,
Miller.
please.
Nick Miller is up next. Please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
How's it going? My name is Nick Miller, and I'm here representing Dollar Tree. We share the city's goal of protecting our coastline and reducing litter. However, we respectfully disagree with the total ban on the sale and use of balloons. At Dollar Tree, balloons are a small but meaningful part of how local families, seniors, and school groups celebrate milestones reportedly. A ban doesn't just remove a product, it places an outsized burden on price-sensitive residents and the local workers who serve them. We take environmental responsibility seriously. We do not sell or promote any balloons for release. Every balloon we sell is properly weighted, secured, and accompanied by handling and disposal guidance. And most of the balloons that we sell are for use indoors, which significantly limits any environmental impact. We know a blanket ban won't stop improper releases. It'll simply push customers to buy balloons online or in neighboring cities where there is zero point of sale education and no local accountability. Furthermore, California has already acted. Assembly Bill 847 requires a statewide transition to non-conductive materials to address safety and environmental concerns. A local ban duplicates this effort while hurting local businesses. We urge the council to consider more effective solutions like enforcing a prohibition on intentional releases, partnering with retailers like us to promote safe disposal, and then focusing on public education on behavior, not lawful products. Let's protect our environment through partnership and not a ban that creates unintended consequences for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
That's all the speakers I have.
Okay, very good. With that, we will bring it back to council. Ms. Sneddon.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. I have just a quick follow-up question first. This does not apply to latex balloons, correct?
Yes, Councilmember Sneddon, that is correct. It does not apply to any latex balloons.
Okay, thank you. And then a Mylar, inflated Mylar balloon, but it's affixed onto a stick in a flower arrangement. Is that in this description?
Yes, that would be included. We don't have any, we didn't carve out any language for the format that the balloon is in. It's just Mylar balloons.
Okay, thank you. I'll start by saying, Ms. Rosales, excellent presentation, particularly in answering all the range of questions. So thank you for your presentation. And thank you to our public commenters, Kathy King and Penny Owens, who have been advocating for decades. So it's nice to see you here today. And for ex parte communication, I don't know if this officially counts or not, but I did also speak with members of the Coalition for Responsible Celebration. So I did hear their side of the perspective. But I will say that on my way into City Hall today, I saw a Mylar balloon up in a tree dangling there and caught, and it was hard not to see that as a sign that yes, they are released even on a windy,
cold day, and that's what we're trying to avoid. As a kayaker, I've seen them in the water and have, often, more often than not, actually, and pick them up. I want to say thank you. I think this presentation shows all that's possible, and I think it highlights the past success. I'm glad that you discussed the polystyrene ban, and I really appreciate the components of outreach and education, and especially the bilingual outreach. And I think that was pretty stunning to see 100% compliance with the foam ban, and thinking back on how impossible that seemed and how difficult that seemed. But people find a way to use different materials, and there are so many now materials that have arisen that work really just as well. So I see that as a sign also that this can be done, that we can do it. So, and that's to your credit, really, the department, to you, to your outreach, the pilot programs. You really took your time trying different pilot programs, the educational component, the phased approach, the non-punitive approach, working with businesses, working through it. And if it's any indication that there's no one in this room today protesting this decision, I think it speaks to how well the educational component and the pre-work that you do with businesses ahead of time, so that they understand what
the audience, they said 4
need to
o'clock.
do. So again, it seemed hard, but you did it. And I think this will be the same, especially because, even the ramekins now, you can get the thick paper ones, and they work fine. You can take even wet materials. I'm thinking of it like Whole Foods, and maybe that's not a good example, but the paper-to-go containers that you can have a lot of liquids in there, and they don't seep out, and we can do this. And I thank you for bringing it forward, and it going through so many different iterations of pilots, of working with people at Earth Day, working with businesses, looking at alternatives. So I'm happy to support this, and thank you for all of the pre-work you've done to make this possible.
Ms. Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm just going to echo all of those comments. And I think one of the things that did come through, and Councilmember Sneddon, or excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Sneddon, said it very well, but I'm going to say again, because I think it bears repeating, so much care and consideration went into the crafting of these ordinances and the program more broadly. I think it was at Sustainability Committee 3 times that I can remember. It was at Ordinance Committee, I think multiple times. And those were not just sort of one-off, here's what we're doing, and we're going to move on quickly. I mean, those were in-depth, very considered conversations about what this is going to look like, and from all angles, really, certainly with a priority emphasis on the impacts to our local business, but also community members. How will it impact kids who are hot at a park? I mean, just really in-depth consideration of how to do this, with sort of the through line of understanding that it is our responsibility to move our community forward in this way for our collective good and for the future of this community. So it was just really excellently done. And I also am going to reiterate the point that just how far we've come as a community in this subject. It really is so notable to me that there were just a couple of public comments and really generally I think all for the most part very positive, is just so wonderful, and I think so telling of where we are as a community and our collective understanding of the need to really be leaders in this space for one another's benefit. And I was also just thinking, the education piece is so important, but it is balanced by these regulatory shifts that we need to make. And I think they all work together to just sort of change the narrative around how we live our lives. And it's been so successful. And just last week, I was conditioning a project in a different setting where I remember 5 years ago, a similar project, they were so uncomfortable with the idea that we had a provision in this condition banning single-use plastics. Last week, they suggested it. And it's just that two different hearings within the span of a week, seeing on display this change is really to your credit, to the credit of our staff, and to our community who have said we really want and believe in this as well. So I'm really excited about this and very grateful, and we'll be happy to vote yes on it.
Ms. Santa Maria.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. One brief follow-up question. For the businesses who have questions or need support as they transition, who would be the best contact person for folks to reach out to?
Thank you, Councilmember Santa Maria. Anyone who has questions can reach out to us at the Clean Community Division. We're happy to provide assistance in English and in Spanish. They can contact me as well, Daniela Rosales, at the Clean Community Division, and we're happy to go in person, speak over the phone, whatever works for them.
Thank you so much. That's the end of my questions. I'll just give some very brief comments. I also had communications with the Coalition for Responsible Celebration, and I really wanted to make sure that we are taking all sides into consideration. But if there is one thing clear, is that our climate crisis is accelerating at alarming rates. There is no denying that, and every step that we can take to help preserve our coastline, preserve our environment is very much worthwhile. I am very encouraged by the amazing work our city staff is doing, and I echo the comments from my colleagues that the outreach and the work that you've all been putting into this, we can most definitely see the benefits of that already. And so thank you for being open to helping businesses navigate as this transition may be easier for some more than others. But I think collectively we do owe it to our planet and to this beautiful piece of earth we call Santa Barbara and we call home to protect it. And if nothing else, as we were hearing actually earlier during the South Coast Chamber of Commerce presentation, the ecotourism dollars that we get in our city annually are monumental. And even if we only look at this through the economic vitality lens, if we put aside, which in my opinion, we shouldn't put aside all of the climate aspects of this, but if we put that aside and only look at economic development, this still very much seems like the correct step moving forward, given that we are protecting one of the driving sources for our local tourism. And so I am happy to be supporting this. Thank you.
Mr. Gutierrez.
So back to the city attorney, sorry. So my suggestion of making all the balloons labeled with the purchaser, you're saying that it's not impossible to do that, it's just difficult to do that?
Honorable Mayor, Councilmember Gutierrez, it's a very good question. It's not impossible to kind of require the enforcement is not impossible, it'd be very just difficult. As far as labeling each balloon with a manufacturer's name, I don't know at this point the legal issue if we're able to do that under our ordinance. I could look as to that issue prior to coming back for adoption, but I don't have that answer readily available. If we can make that requirement that they do list the owner or manufacturer on each balloon, I would have to come back on that issue.
Would any of my colleagues be willing to have city staff look into that?
I'm always willing to have people look into things. I don't know how practical it is, but we'll find out. But I wouldn't want to hold up today's decision on that.
Okay. That's all. I just, obviously I'm an advocate for the environment, but I feel that, education can only go so far. And I feel again, going back to my example of what Isla Vista did with the selling of kegs, that essentially ended the quote-unquote keggers in Isla Vista because of the risk of having an underage person drinking. So it's very rare now, from what I've heard, to see the selling of kegs in Isla Vista because of that policy. So I think that if a person is going to buy the Mylar balloons and know that they're going to be held responsible if that balloon is found because they didn't properly dispose of it, it'll make them, second guess everything. And also, if we find that balloon, then we have an opportunity to penalize that person. And yeah, so that's all I got to say.
Just, Honorable Mayor, and just a point of clarification, the issue would be not looking at the manufacturer going upstream, but at least just Councilmember Gutierrez, like, who is selling it within the city to list that on the balloon, correct? Because I think going upstream to the manufacturer, all that would present a significant problem. But if we know the origin of, like, locally where it comes from, that may be different. So just kind of a clarification on that.
I know that the technology is out there to quickly label something. I see ads for it all the time, whether it's a sticker or a laser printer. If the information of the buyer can be printed on each balloon, so they're aware that they are responsible of making sure each balloon is disposed of properly to curb the risk of it being littered.
Understood. Thank you.
Ms. Sneddon, another comment?
Thank you. Just as a follow-up to that, I think some of the difficulty with that would be labeling which part of the balloon, if it's, if it's then lost or then in pieces, you don't know which part it belonged to, and then the purchaser isn't always the one responsible for the end use. If it's a gift or you're bringing it somewhere, then it creates something where you're then responsible after you've handed the balloon off. So it's a little different than a keg in some ways. But I think also alternatives could be paper lanterns with a light in it, or something that also provides celebration without the same risk to it. So I think any number of alternatives are worth looking at over time, but I think for today, without knowing what those are, it would be great to move this forward.
All right, very good. Oh, Ms. Harmer, do you have another comment?
I was just going to say, excuse me, that I agree with that. I think there's, one of the things we've learned through this process is that it's an ongoing iterative conversation about where we need to go, both in terms of ordinance drafting and language, and I think more importantly, community conversation and buy-in and engagement and what works and what doesn't. So I think it's super important that we have all ideas on the table, but I agree strongly. I think moving forward with this today is imperative. And I also would say, just in general, I think if we can move away from Mylar altogether, rather than, I do very much appreciate trying to thread the needle, and I think that's an approach that I generally take personally, so I do really appreciate that. Just at a certain point, I think we have to say the consequences are so profound for our marine environment, for our coastal protection purposes, and there are so many alternatives that it doesn't quite make sense. So let's keep talking, I guess is where I'd put it, and I'd be happy to turn it over to council members, or excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem to make the motion. I'll second it.
Well, there's actually one more commenter.
Sorry.
That would be me. So, yeah, I agree with Ms. King's comments. These things have been around for a long time. Since the 70s, I've crossed 3 oceans on small sailboats, and I remember off of northwest coast of Africa, Central America, the Caribbean, where you saw large concentrations of trash. So a lot of it has to do with populations and cultures do with their disposal and how conscious they are of these issues that we have. And there are a lot of items like expanded polystyrene that do not belong anywhere around an ocean environment. And as I sail today, I still see, things out there. Notably, actually, the most thing I see is, besides cigarette butts, are plastic bottle caps from small water bottles. So, and I believe there are other kinds of small water bottles that have the cap that does not detach and whatnot. Rarely actually see the full bottles themselves. I do have to comment, though, that I do see, when I do my beach cleanups, I see a fair amount of cigarette butts, even though we've banned cigarette smoking in the city of Santa Barbara. My point is this: I think there's a lot of really good stuff here. There's a few things that I can't really agree with, so I'd have a hard time taking this ordinance on as a whole, particularly with questions that aren't, to my mind, satisfactorily answered, like the meat tray kind of thing or whatnot. And I said, the Costco bag or whatever, but that may or may not work for every cut of meat. And I don't know that, but I do know the committees I've sat on with public health have helped make those things what they are today. So I'd still like to have more input about before I sit there and try to legislate this away. My bottom line is, we do have a bit of a trash disposal problem. Oftentimes it's from, trash cans that don't properly seal by the beach, and seagulls pulling things out, they end up in the ocean environment. But I am always a big fan of educating over legislating, because I think that makes a big difference. I think this department does a good job of that. The confetti thing is something that's kind of gives me a little bit of a giggle, because I've talked about this for years when I was on the downtown organization, and said, why don't we license the Cascarone sellers and say, to do this for a very nominal fee, you buy this confetti, this paper, non-bleached, non-colored confetti that you can put in the Cascarones, and you will be a licensed. And we got pushback on that, because I know we didn't have the Grime Reaper back then, but we did do a lot of broom pushing, cleanup, and whatever we could do. And it's really hard, because it's in the storm drains and it ends up in the ocean. So you see this confetti bloom out there after Fiesta every year. So there are things that we can do. Like I said, I just don't like, I think what happens is what happened the other times we've attempted this, is the people that are impacted the most are sometimes the smallest, and sometimes the ethnic retailers of food and whatnot that have those other items that are, and certainly the disposable, recyclable cutlery is a lot more expensive than the other stuff, is why it gets used. So we can gravitate towards that, and I would just like to see more education. Once again, the idea of saying you cannot use these one-use plastics in your food service on site, I get that. It makes sense. But if somebody's set up that way and they don't have the adequate labor or machinery to do the cleaning, then where do they go? What do they do? And I would like to know more about that, rather than take a few people and make them the targets of this particular thing. And I realize that enforcement would have to be departments that within your department, you'd have to form your own and maintain your own enforcement. And I think it's a little ironic right now as I think about my small ethnic food producers that are struggling because of the street vendors that we can't quite get a handle on enforcing and struggle with their different laws. And so even though these aren't completely related, to them they're going to be related. They're going to feel like you're getting put them on again, even though we haven't done the other part and gotten to control the food vendors. So if I could break this up and do little things like, the things that already comply with state, and clean up that language, I think that would be great. I can't support it as a whole in its current form, so I won't be supporting the ordinance. But I think the effort's good. I think the education piece, and you mentioned it a few times, which I think is exactly where our value is in this. And I think that the public's education, rather than by punitive measures, I think if we lead by example and we lead by keeping things clean and we don't allow these things to get out in the waste stream and out in the ocean, by action, as opposed to saying it's, thou shalt not, and thou shalt pay a penalty. I think it ends up, I think we're doing more messaging than we are doing the actual practical work of keeping things out of that waste stream. So with that, I will go back to Ms. Sneddon.
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. Are there portions that you would want to move that you do support, and then we could have a separate motion for the remainder?
Well, this has been proposed as an ordinance, but yeah,
Single-use carryout bags is the state.
So for right now, I'll withdraw the motion that's on the table so that we
Okay.
can,
well, for example, like I understand per staff's description and for your concerns, Ms. Sneddon, that there are different kinds of balloons, but I really don't know who's got what, how much inventory they have, and what kind of amortization period we would have for them to go to that other product if that was feasible. Those are answers I don't have. And so that's hard to say, boom, you're done after Valentine's Day with whatever product you have. If there's a feasible replacement and they can continue on, fine. I had no idea how big the balloon industry was actually until recently, but I see that because Mylar balloons are a hazard, no doubt about it. I would definitely vote for the plastic and Mylar confetti restriction. Now, enforcing that is a political show whenever we do that in Fiesta, as we all know, that's been around long enough. But I'm all over that. That's great. Reusable foodware for on-site dining, I never understand why people do that, except if they really don't have the capacity to wash things on-site. I'd like to know that answer, because to me, it makes sense not to use one-use things in an on-site location, but I don't know all the on-site locations, so I don't know what the issues are and problems and why they do it that way. I really don't. The reusable cup for large events, that seems a little arcane to say if you're going to use 10% of your beverages, and if you guys can enforce that, more power to you. That seems like that might be a little tricky. The plastic bag ban, of course, just is matching with state law, so that's totally supportable. Yeah, I just, try to keep things as, what I don't want to do is revisit where we've been before and make things that are going to be things we have to go back and revisit again. Because we've made certain mistakes. We didn't realize that plastic straws were going to be an issue for the disabled. We didn't know that. Without really spending time and going to minutia, Ms. Sneddon, I don't know. I can see moving forward on a few of these, but I don't want to sit there and try to eviscerate the entire ordinance for my concerns. I say, like with the meat trays, I just don't think I have enough information about what that means, and I know where we went to get there in the first place. What we used to use or what they used in the stores, opposed to what they use today, and now what are they going to do? And I think that's an issue. We still have.
Mayor Russ, given the comments that you made today, like looking at the ordinance, we would need to take this section by section and subsection. So I feel like that's too extensive for the purposes of today, unless the city attorney has any other ideas on that.
Yeah, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Irely, Honorable Mayor, Council. So there's a couple things I'm hearing from you, Mayor, and kind of the talk. So we don't have a current motion on there. So it's either 2 points. If the issue is they feel like there needs to be a longer runway and more education, that issue is easy because you can just kind of extend the effective date here and it requires a minor change. If the issue instead is more that there are some prohibitions in here that there's a consensus and there's some that are not, Ms. Irely is correct. That would require kind of, for staff, for we know what needs to be stricken and what remains, and that would have to be a piece by piece exploring that, the ordinance in depth. So which one of the two options is obviously up for discussion for council right now at this portion, but I mean, we could do it, it would just take time. We'd have to literally.
Well, for me, I would like to take out the ones that may have economic impacts that aren't anticipated. And that's, clearly the general idea of taking these things out of the environment is correct. I get that. Now, how do we do that? And what impact are we really going to make? And what are we doing to some small operators. And that's the thing that is always a concern for me. Like, what did you just do? And like, oh, well, that's it. So, so like, for example, expanded polystyrene, absolutely, we did that before. But the rigid polystyrene the only thing I can think of the use is that meat tray thing. And that, to me, that was a development post-expanded polystyrene. And a lot of the to-go containers have been all amortized out, and they're using the more recyclable ones now. So then their mills may still be some of those out there. I don't really know, but I think that'd be fine. So I would like to, for example, item 1, I'd like to pause. I think that item 2 is probably doable, because I do think there are, as you listed, some supplies about that. I don't know what the expenses, but I know a lot of people have already gone to those disposable flatware standards. The single-use beverage container regulation, I'd like to, I couldn't vote on until I knew more about the impacts on some of the convenience stores and the places that use those. Balloon restrictions the same way. Confetti, I'm all over controlling that if we can. Good luck with that. We'll get going on that. And then I need to know more about the impacts of reusable foodware policy for on-site dining. I don't know how big of a problem that is. I do know that people do it. Why do they do it? I can't imagine from my own experience doing it from an expense standpoint, but why are some of the smaller people doing it? And I don't know that answer. The reusable cup for large events, that's going to be an enforcement thing, so yeah, I don't have a problem with that if you can pull that off, but, and like I said, of course, plastic bag bans are all already just doing that, so.
So if I may, Honorable Mayor, I think would be helpful in terms of the deliberation if you can propose a motion, and it could be seconded for discussion to give comments to staff to come back with, some direction as to changes to the ordinance. So that could be one possibility, or there could be motion to just approve the ordinance as is. That's up to the council to decide. It looks like. So it's not the educational kind of runway. It's just, if we're going to make amendments, we'll just need to know direction, if there's a motion and it's approved, and we can do that as staff like we typically do, or we approve the ordinance, but that's up for your deliberation.
Well, for example, on the polystyrene, the expanded polystyrene, that was one that I supported back when we did it. But then the rigid polystyrene was something I'd like to take a look at again. So is the ordinance written in a way that says both? I assume that it is. And so how do I break that out? Or can item 1 come back? I mean, that's hang on.
Honorable Mayor, I think it's hard to, I understand the points you're raising,
Yeah.
and there needs to be more information as to some. It's hard to like piecemeal it. It's hard to say, let these portions go forward and hold back to amend it, because there could be significant amendments, right? So, especially if this is a new ordinance and from an educational standpoint, it's easier for a rollout if you have one consistent ordinance for the public. So I think it's benefit for the council and the public and for staff, either we approve what we have here today, or if need be, we need to come back with a direction so we come together with a comprehensive ordinance so we can then do the further educational rollout when need be.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure the standards by which I would say that I'm satisfied with, for example, the rigid polystyrene. Doesn't in fact, does the California Grocers Association recognize and indemnify that? And I don't know that. And that's something that would be a concern for me, and it's a concern right now because a lot of businesses are hanging on with like the cat on the curtain. So this is a worthy effort, and it's correct to take these materials out of the environment, but we have to do so thoughtfully. And I think we have a lot of small business people that are depending on us doing things thoughtfully. So that's why I can't support what we have here today. Ms. Ned, did you have a comment?
I will remake the motion to approve in its entirety
Okay.
as is.
Second.
Okay, first by Sneddon, second by Harmon. Any other comments to the motion? Okay, do we need to do a roll call vote because of the,
I can do that if you like.
you got it? All right.
Councilmember Santa Maria,
Yes.
Councilmember Gutierrez,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Sneddon,
Yes.
Councilmember Harmon,
Yes.
Councilmember Jordan is absent, Councilmember Friedman abstains, and Mayor Rouse.
No. Okay, motion passes with Ross abstaining. Okay, very good. Thank you. And with that, do we have any committee assignment reports, engagements? Mrs. Sneddon?
Thank you, Mayor Rouse. As many of us did, I attended the Santa Barbara International Film Festival opening. It was very well attended. I attended, along with Councilmember Gutierrez, the Neighborhood Advisory Committee meeting. There were presentations on the Bloomberg grant with the Zapoteco fiber art and the painted public art that will go in at State Street. It's really exciting. The committee was excited. Also heard an update from KCI on efforts to end sex trafficking of children. We had our sustainability committee meeting, and we heard about the Own Your Impact campaign, which has just rolled out. Heard the Airport Climate Adaptation Plan, and also discussed Local Government Climate Alliance, our participation in that. Kachuma Conservation Release Board, mostly closed session, no reportable action. Attended the Downtown Santa Barbara Improvement Association, the Safe Streets meeting. And then tonight, the Community Development and Human Services Committee will be hearing, will be doing the ranking for our grants.
Okay, Ms. Harmon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't normally report out about Coastal Commission happenings, but just a couple of things that I wanted to highlight for folks from last week. In particular, at the commission, we approved 2 local coastal plan amendments specifically related to short-term rental policies, one in the city of Encinitas and the city of Del Mar. I know there's a huge amount of interest here around short-term rental policies and how well or how not well those policies might be received by the Coastal Commission. I highly recommend for anyone interested to take a look at those staff reports. Very, very interesting new ways of looking at how to regulate short-term rentals in the coastal zone. Super interesting stuff and relevant for, I think, our interests. And then also just a shout out to UCSB, who after the rezoning of a parcel to residential just back in November, submitted a new residential housing project, and it got through the commission and got approved, and it's going to be a whole bunch of student housing that's really going to help us here in Santa Barbara. It's a beautiful building, and really impressed with the UCSB planning staff to make that happen so quickly, and it was a unanimous vote from the commission, so it's great.
All right, anybody else? Okay, with that, we're going to adjourn. We don't meet next week. We're back on the 24th.